It's Mauricio Mejia live on YouTube.
All right, guys, welcome back. We are here, Mauricio Mejia live. We're inside of our all-new studio, Studio B, in downtown San Jose, the Sofa District. That's right, the heart of Silicon Valley. And today, we got a special guest, and we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, women in entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking about strategic leadership. We're going to go through a whole list of things with my special guest today. We got Leena Mendoza coming in. And Leena, you ready for today?
I'm ready for today. Thank you, Mauricio, for having me. What an honor. This is awesome. You've done such a great job of bringing Silicon Valley to the map and continue to make a bigger impact.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a journey doing this. It's my entrepreneurship, our entrepreneurial spirit woke up at a very young age. So I've been doing this for a very long time. And people wonder, what's an entrepreneur? It's like someone that makes their own decisions, owns their own businesses, and just lives life by the way by their choices and what they want to do. So, but the entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one. No. So, and we're going to dive right into that today. But it's not about me today; it's about you. We want to talk about your successes, and we know that all successes come with some ups and downs, peaks and valleys. We don't use the F word here unless it's the other F, the 4-letter word. But talk to me. Give us. I normally like to go starting from the beginnings. Born and raised, and then your upbringing, and then what triggered it. What set you off to where you're at today?
Awesome. Thank you. So born in Thailand. So I'm from Udon Thani, Bangkok, Thailand. Okay. And my father is in the military. My mom was Thai and Laos, so Mexican and Asian. So a lot of people would say Chinita Mexicana. And I think that dual culture really brings that different value of figure it out, right? And so in Spanish we say echa con ganas. And I think that's a very strong leadership, kind of DNA is what I'd say. And so what we will figure it out as entrepreneur. It's already embedded in us, and so we're not brand new to the game. My mom would say as a kid, you speak English, that's the reason why you should be a multimillionaire. And my dad said, if you don't have access to $1 million, you need the right people in your corner to have access for you.
Damn, we're already starting hard over here. All right, I like it. All right.
Right. So it's already embedded. I mean, it's just figure it out, make it happen, have the right circle, and because you speak English. But if you think about it, a lot of people who come from different countries come here because it's the American dream, right? And so I think we really don't really realize how much of an opportunity we already have being on this soil, but also speaking English and how we drive the economy for the world. And being Latinos is $3.4 trillion to GDP. Nice. So I think that's already a powerful statement.
Yeah. I think that that movement has been happening for a long time, and I think it's just a matter of education and uplifting and, again, pushing and getting the message out. And I think that you're right. We are a big impact in this country. Being from immigrant parents myself, born here in California, got the opportunity, and I've ran with it since I was a kid. So my journey started at a very young age, at 15, and I've reached some accomplishments, some pinnacles in my life that I'm very proud of. But the journey doesn't stop there. We got to continue to go. So siblings, you didn't mention, do you have any siblings?
So I have a brother, and so I'm 40-something, so a couple years younger.
Don't date yourself here on the show. You don't look it at all, by the way.
Thank you.
All right.
And then I have a half-sister in Ohio. And so, a wonderful family. My mom remarried, my dad remarried. So awesome. A lot of support from both families.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So talk to us. Tell us at what point in your life was that trigger turned on or that switch turned on where you felt you wanted to go down the path that you're in today? Because you got a whole list of great things that we can share here with the audience. I mean, put my glasses, I'm starting to date myself here.
Thank you.
Obviously, keynote speaker. You've done stuff for International Coaching Federation, trained, or that's some of your background. Corporate professional development trainer. The one that popped out was the John Maxwell. That's awesome. Leadership training. He's a great guy. I love his conversations. Latina Businesswoman of the Year. Awesome. Talk to us about all these different accomplishments that you have. What is the drive? What makes you tap into that world?
So I think I'm just a natural problem solver and a great critical thinker. And so whatever it may be, from driving business or creating a relationship. So the first question you asked me was how did it all start? And so to me, it was either two options. Either you help establish a career, you establish a company. And that's how I started my career. So it was never odd to not be niched down in like either just entrepreneurship or career. I worked with different people from different backgrounds. You know, they maybe had some felonies. You know, maybe they didn't have the appropriate degrees, but it was really about how are they going to drive that business with what they had. So I learned at a very young age to like how to get established for a business, the loans, how to work with SBDC, SBA. And so really putting those resources together to help businesses grow. And I've always consulted on that for well over 20 years.
That sounds more like banking then, the banking world, when you talk about the different loans or the different opportunities there. I know you were talking about it behind the scenes before we got on camera. You were talking about bankers and the people that you need to know, the relationships, in order for other businesses to kind of navigate through that whole, what do we want to call it, that just navigate through that financial world, because that's, I think once you understand that version, that financial literacy, or you understand how to navigate, life then becomes a little bit easier.
Yes.
I know that it wasn't easy for me. I learned from somebody else. I had a mentor that taught me how to navigate, and then eventually I started to learn on my own. And then we started learning through some of our mistakes and then so forth. But the biggest thing for me is relationships.
Agreed, 100%. So I'd say the three areas that our businesses are missing, especially even if you went to school, let's say you have an MBA, you're missing the business, the financial, and the strategic acumen. So those are three areas, right? Like you're just great at what you do, but do you know how to run a business? Do you understand how to do the finances?
Right.
And do you have the ability to do the strategy to drive it to the next level? How do you 10X it?
Right.
So I talk about money a lot because that's usually what people come to me for.
That's right. That's right. And systems. I want to add that systems also are important in a business. You need to know how to run a business. You need to know how to forecast, and then you need to understand your systems.
Right.
If your systems are a mess, the business is a mess.
Agreed.
And if you don't have any systems, you don't really have a business, because you can't scale something that doesn't have systems in it.
Correct.
Yeah.
that's how we establish Scalable Trades, for the automation, the workflow, and the system. And so a lot of times, again, someone might be great at construction, but they don't have the system in place to streamline their business. We like to help businesses really take their hands off the business, go to Cabo, have a cocktail, and their business still generate revenue for them and with them.
Got it. Okay. And how's that been working out? I mean, there's so many people that are trying to start their business. Are you dealing with people that are in the beginning, or already in the middle, or already in business that have had a couple years under their belt? What is that niche, or what is that sweet spot?
So we've always said small, medium business, but we seem to be working more with established businesses. So we have a few clients who are starting out, but it's a little bit more work, right? Because it's teaching, education, and so forth. And you mentioned financial literacy. So it's not just financial literacy. I'm going to take it one step further.
Yeah, no, please.
And it's that, what is your relationship with money?
Ooh.
Right? So
tell me, what is the relationship? What's your definition, or how do you share that kind of thought with somebody that doesn't understand what you just said? I have a version. I'll share mine, but I want to hear yours. Like, what does that mean? Relationship with money.
So people typically don't go to a bank unless they have a problem. But money is a resource. It's going to help you leverage. It's going to help you expand. It's going to help you grow. And so what I found was, when someone didn't have money, they would come to me, and I'd have to pull it out of them. Like, do you need additional resources? And someone who had a lot of money, and they were multimillionaires, they said, I'm doing quite well. I need some more. And so it always boiled down to...
Yeah, we always want more. So,
right. Yeah. So I was like, hey, they seem to keep asking me for the same thing, which is more money.
Right.
But it was based on the relationship. So those who were, more higher, influential and affluential, and had a good relationship with money, knew that was a resource. It wasn't something that it was scarce, it wasn't available, but they came from an abundant mindset, but also knew that they knew how to leverage it, not to use their own, but to leverage the resources that were out there to help them grow.
Right. And I'm very familiar with everything you just shared right there. I mean, leveraging is definitely a key point. And I know that what it's like, that once you reach that one certain pinnacle, $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, $100 million, it's not that it's never enough. It's you want to be able to 10X that. You want to, I mean, for me, it's a challenge. I like that challenge. I like that pursuit. And one of the things that I learned, and I was last year, or actually this year, with the Aspire Tour, there was one of the speakers there, Andrew Cordell, and he talks about money, right? What is money? Money's currency.
Right.
Right. And then he breaks it down to where it comes from. Currency means current, right? You got to keep money flowing. When money gets stuck, it doesn't do anything for anyone. So what is your relationship with that? So for me, cash flow business are important because cash flow keeps money moving, right? And then there's also long-term investments, right? There's also long-term, like in real estate development. You got to have a strong stomach for that because those cycles take 3 to 5 years before you even pop off out of the ground. And a complete cycle can be from 3 to 8 years, but from the time you start to the time you finish. But if you're doing like the type of developments that we're working on, these high density developments, I mean, you're talking about 250, 300 million, $500 million type of projects. So yeah, if you spread it out over the time, I mean, imagine how much it kind of comes out to, it plays out. The only thing though is it's the risk. Right. But no risk, no reward. So high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward. So, but I like that. I mean, I think definitely people need to understand what is money.
That's right.
That it is a tool, it's a resource. And I think that what has happened is that over the years, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. When we're young, we just think that it's coming forever, and whatever we make, we spend. Then we spend it. We don't invest it. We also don't invest it in ourselves because there's different ways of doing it. You can invest it out so that it continues to grow, or you invest it in yourself so that you can continue to grow and have those strong mindsets.
Agreed.
To continue to elevate and go to the next level. So
when you talk about next level, I'll tell you is that I see businesses so I'll give you a statistic. 92% of those who are millionaires don't hit 5 million.
Okay.
So it's important to know what is getting people stuck. So that's where I come in.
5 million a year or 5 million total?
5 million revenue. So
in 1 year. Okay. Yeah.
So right. So like each time you go to the next level, there's what I call the 3 B's: the blind spot, the barrier, and the breakthrough. It's one or all 3 that are required.
Give me chills on that one right there. That was all right.
Right. So it's just like, when you...
I have one business right now that's like just been stuck. And in my previous business that I had similar to it, we broke 100 million in 2019. Okay. But there was a lot more resources. And resources meaning more money to reinvest. And then the team, there was a larger team with a lot more, we can delegate a lot more versus, going out there and hunting right now.
Okay.
I think that considering that during the pandemic, we launched this company and it's grown. In the 4 years that has been alive, it's hit 10 million total in 4.5 years, but it hasn't broken the 3 million or $5 million mark. It actually, I take it back, it broke a 3 million mark, 3.2 I think it was, or 3.6, and then it kind of took a dip, and then now we're trying to get it to where we can hit 5 to 10 million. Our goal is 10 million a year for this company, so that way it just hits the numbers that we want.
Right.
So, and then we can offload it. We can go and there's an exit strategy to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you talk about that's also important to know. When you establish a business, establish it to sell. Right. So it sounds like not a good thing, right? It's like you get married to get divorced. I don't know, like how would you even say that? So but you kind of, it's all based on a relationship, right? So, but it's,
I don't know about that, guys. You guys better, a marriage is like a business. No, it is. Oh, yeah, no.
Well, have your assets in order. So, well, I say it because it sounds heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
But business is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it also is very fruitful. So, what are you prepared to sell? So it takes about 2 years to do that. And so what people do is they establish a business. They start to, maybe they have a plan. But what if someone wants to buy that? It takes a while. So it takes a couple of years to sell it. Yeah. And so I
normally say 3 to 5 years. By year number 3, you have an understanding of what the business is doing.
Correct.
And then by year number 4, you're like, okay, where are we going? And then by year number 5, you put it on the market. Agreed. Or you look for an acquisition.
Correct.
You're either going to go acquire someone or get acquired.
Correct.
Yeah.
So perfect that you said this. So let's just say it's Stephen Covey's way, which is have the end in mind.
Yes,
right. And so
always.
When you're prepared, you know what to do when that happens. But also making sure when you're working with a merger and acquisition team, they're the ones that are going to help you with evaluating what your value of your business. But even working with, so she was more of a mentee through the Stanford program. I gave her the strategy to look at how she can look at selling it for another $1 million, because the blueprint she was giving was a blueprint for guaranteed success. So when there's a difference when you're handing a blueprint, but when this is revenue generating with guaranteed growth, that's different. That's a different price point, and it costs to be the boss. So
wow. Okay. Let me ask you background education. Give us a little bit of that. I mean, what got you here? There's got to be other there's got to be other like little just tips or clues onto how you got to this.
So my postgraduate work is in counseling, and so people usually ask if I have an MBA. The answer is no. I've also been in construction, and so I don't have a degree in construction, but I know how to count. I'm very responsible, but I also know how to 10x things, and I know where the potholes are because I've always worked around money. Okay. And so where is it that you're missing, right? And so typically people were stealing when it had to do with high levels of money. There was nobody monitoring it well. But also were they looking at how to allocate the funding and what was the growth strategy over the next 5 years? And so I've always seen that, and I can look for the loopholes. So.
Yeah, it sounds more like a controller there. When I the way you describe it, it's like a controller of a business, right? Businesses need to have different layers. You have your in-house accounting, and then you have your outside accountant, and then you have a controller that's also pulling the strings too, making sure that you stay within the means of the company.
Stay within the means, but also what are you looking at for the growth strategy over the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah. Right. And so, I mean, you can do that on strategy.
I'm guilty of that, guys. I'm super guilty. I've had multiple businesses, and there's businesses where, money was just coming through, and it was as fast as it was coming in, it was going out. And then you learn that that's not the way to run a business. And then you start learning how to put controls. Right. And then once you start controlling, you can actually over control sometimes a company and choke it out. So you have to learn how to push and pull. Right, have that balance. Right, because if you don't, you can either extinguish the company, or it can get out of control. And then when you're out of control, sometimes it's harder to kind of calm it down a little. Right, because you have no controls. And I've been in that type of situation too, where sometimes we're over leveraging, we're getting too much money. That's right, or we're borrowing too much money that we don't need, and we're paying on that money that it eats up at the profits. Right. Yeah. So
I think what's helpful when you say that is, so as listeners saying like, well, what do I do when I'm in this situation? So I like to say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? And so when you're in the back, you're backed up in the corner, right? So like you're not special. Yeah. Let me just say that in the beginning. Yeah. Success is not overnight. Nope. And so it's a matter of if. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you'll be backed up in the corner. And so who is in your corner? Right. Making sure you have an attorney that's on deck. You can have those conversations before they go to retainer. Your CPA, and then also I think your banker, so that you can have those intimate personal conversations about money and how to drive it to a different number. And you should be taking these strategic partners out for dinner, which I call steak. Yeah. Because if you're having those kind of conversations that are driving your numbers higher, you want to make sure you take care of your team well. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because I'm right now as we speak, we're wrapping up the year, and we're talking about future, and my accountant started she's been listening to me, and she came to me, she says, Mauricio, with all the different stuff that you're working on, all the different businesses, all the empire that you're trying to build, we're going to need a team. And I said, oh, you're paying attention to me now, huh? I'm like, yes, I work best in team environments, right? Smart team environments. That's Everyone's got to be in their lane, stay in their lane, and be a master in their lane. So we got an accountant, boom, solid. I have an in-house accountant, so there's 2 accountants, right? There's the in-house, like the daily, and then there's the one that oversees, and then we have the one that does the yearly stuff for us, right? So we got 3 layers right there, just in accounting, 3 layers. The next is attorneys. The different types of businesses require different types of attorneys. For one of my companies, I require to have the best labor law attorneys, because we got to make sure that we cover our ass on labor issues. And then, of course, we have our business attorney, and then we have our corporate attorney, business/corporate attorney. And then we have, any other kind of specialties that we need, maybe a tax attorney, maybe. But so then that's your next layer. And then you just got to build that team of people and then banking. You got to have a great banking relationship with somebody. So that then becomes the team. And then if you have everybody, if you take care of everybody, you build those relationships,
that takes you a long way.
Agreed. So hence why I say buy them steak. And some people ask me, like, does it have to be steak? And I'm like, if you take them a Subway sandwich, that's fine. But build that relationship, because this is where they're going to help you grow. This is where you're going to talk to them about maybe some drama and trauma around money, some pain points.
Drama and trauma. All right.
So,
I love it.
Right? Because it's going to happen. And right. And you need to be able to trust this person with the worst case scenario. And that call might be at 11 o'clock at night. It's not at the perfect hour at 8 a.m. in the morning on Monday. It's when it's really tough. And you should be able to go to them with the good, the bad, and what I call the hella ugly.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen.
Yeah. You know, I always tell people in my circles that when they ask, hey, you want the good news or the bad news? I'm like, I want the bad news first. Give it to me right now, because I'd rather get that out of the way, because the good news is that I don't want to hear the good and then kill it with the bad. So just give me the bad news right now.
Right.
And then let's find solutions.
Right.
Right. And I also, internally, if you're going to come with a problem, at least come with some solutions with it. So at least that we can at least get the mindset already started on some of the ideas that you may have to solve the problem.
Agreed.
Because every problem has a solution.
Correct.
I just told somebody this yesterday. I said, anything in this world is negotiable. Everything and anything is negotiable. So if they say you owe this, okay, great. Well, then if I can't do it now, can we do it here? No. Okay, well, then you start going, that's the negotiations. You start going back and forth until you find a happy medium where everybody is satisfied.
So I'm going to add this and see what you think.
Yeah.
So I believe, and I've always been able to do this, is that where there's pain points there's profit margins are there. So I take it from pain points to profit margins, because where businesses do not like to do, they don't like to address the drama and trauma, but that's where the hole is for your money. And that's where the opportunities for you to grow for profitability. But because you close your eyes, you want a blind eye, you're losing a lot of money.
I feel like you're talking to me right now. Oh man, no, it's the truth. And I say that because I've been there. I've been there. There's moments where you just get lost.
That's right.
In the business, because life.
That's right.
Right. This is not the only thing that I do, and there's other things that are influencing or that are hovering around our universe, and there's things that just slip your mind.
Happens.
And it happens, and then you don't realize it until it hits. Until it hits, and then you're like, oh, I mean, I tell in one of my businesses we had an accounting mistake that happened. And it wasn't a small one. It was something that it passed through 4 layers of people: the vendor, the vendor's accountant, the owner of the business. Mm-hmm. It went through me. It went through our accountant, and in our other accountant. 5 people saw all it passed through their hands, and no one caught it. Until into the new year, when we caught it, it was a significant amount of money that allowed, we were not forecasting for that, and we thought that this was coming in until you really dug into it. Mm-hmm. It was like, how did we make this mistake?
Mm-hmm. It happens.
How did we make it? And then that's where the challenge then becomes, all right, now we got to dig ourselves out of it.
That's right.
And then you have to start doing course correction, right?
That's right.
You got to start controlling the business.
That's right. So I think this honestly applies, right? Because people would tell me, you talk about millions like it's $5. And really, it's the way to look at it, it's just a number, right? And so when you're talking about, 10,000, whether you're talking about 1 million, we're talking about 10 million, you have to be responsible, so they say, when you're responsible with little, you can handle much. So it's important that what you manage in your house, that you're able to do it well, then you can go to the next level. Right. And so it's really strengthening that, what I call leadership muscle, and learning that financial acumen to build to the next level. Yeah. And so will you learn it overnight? No. Right. And so that's why it's having the team. And you know what? The banker doesn't cost you. Right. And, you pay your taxes. Right. So your CPA, all that's going to be an investment. I always recommend people to have a financial planner as well, because, again, it's not a matter of if that money will hit. It's a matter of when. Yeah. And you want to make sure that when the onset comes with the money, that you have a plan for where that money is going to go. I was talking to a financial planner recently, and so he goes, I know I'm on a financial planning advisory committee. And he goes, you have a financial planner, And he said, but if you're starting to deal with people on high net worth, I think it was he mentioned like the Brown Act? So they are Brown bonds. So they start investing in bonds, right? I think the other way is that I understand that you can take your investment or your mortgage and even invest in some of those bonds.
Again, if we educate ourselves,
that's right?
Some people get lost in the whole political realm, and we won't go down that rabbit hole. But I've made money with every single president. And what policies do the presidents or the people that are in charge in government, where are they flowing, right?
That's right.
So that's really where you just have to be aware, and then don't get caught up in that whole, it's one person. No, it's not that person. It's the policy. Which policy that comes with it. It's just who's representative of that policy.
Correct.
Unfortunately, the last few years here in the United States, we've been dealing with some craziness. But at the end of the day, it comes down to people making money.
Right.
You can make more money if you know how to navigate through these times.
Right.
And I think that just goes back to education.
Right.
It's about it's about just educating yourself and learning how the relationship with money is.
So I think it's education and exposure, because if you're not around the people who are saying and know this stuff, maybe even some of them being certified, right? Yeah. And so I seen a private equity guy mention it to my friend, and she goes, I don't know, I wasn't raised, like my mom and dad didn't teach me. And he goes, you weren't exposed, right? And so a wealthy person isn't going to say, well, I didn't know that. They're going to say, I'm not exposed. How do we move forward? Right. And so it's really about, once you become exposed, then what do you do with that information and education, right? And how do you implement it with the strategy? And so, one thing, when that financial planner mentioned about the taxes, the tax strategy, I was in the same conversation that week with a friend of mine goes, honey, I don't need your network. I know everybody, but I got a pretty low 7 digits that I need to offload. You want to help me with some tax strategy, or I can buy a business that's profitable. That's how you can help me.
Right. Like in the perfect example, one of our businesses right now, just we can feel the shift happening. So we're hoping that, as things start to kind of open up a little bit more in the new year, we'll start to see that cash flow getting a little bit healthier. Right. In real estate right now, definitely with the interest rates being so high and now they're chipping them down, you'll start to see more developments happen. You'll start seeing more cranes in the air of people that are buying and developing land. Right. So, but again, it goes down to just cycles, right? So people talk about, like in the real estate development world, it's what wave are we on, right? Because you don't make money at the top and you don't make money when you're coming down. But you get it on that little cusp on the bottom where it's kind of swinging. And then all of a sudden you get some momentum. Okay. And then it just depends at what level and what momentum it is. But once money starts flowing, it starts to flow.
So here's what I will tell you as a projection, and this, is that in the next 6 years, right? So last year I said seven, and there's 70 million baby boomers who are retiring. So that's two things for sure that are shifting. That's a shift in wealth and a shift in knowledge. So how are you getting in front of that? And so I've checked with different, business owners, friends of mine, and I said, hey, are you ready to have your money stacked high so that you're ready for acquisition? And they said, oh, they're already coming at my door. I'm ready, honey. And I'm like, oh, that's good to know. Right. Right. And so, because not everybody is not prepared. They are very prepared. And so it's important that if you're not, that you get prepared. Right. Again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Sometimes I feel, honestly, Leena, that I'm not prepared. Sometimes I feel that, right? Okay. Sometimes I feel that I always tell people, I said, all it takes is one deal for me.
That's right.
To blow up.
That's right.
And it can be blow up or blow up, one deal away. Right. Because that's just the risk tolerance that I'm playing at. Right. Unfortunately, I've never been conservative. I may have some conservative thoughts, but when it comes to business, I just
you're all in.
I go all in. Yep. And I don't know if that's a good thing to do also too, but that's just what works for me. Right. Right. So not saying that to others out there, go all in, but go all in on your idea, but really learn what the processes are in whatever it is that you do.
So I love that you share that, because I think it's important to know what your risk tolerance is. And I share that statistic about the next 6 years and the 70 million baby boomers, because whether you're a Gen Z or you're a baby boomer yourself, it's like there's an opportunity, right? And they go, well, how? So I said it at a conference last year, and someone goes, let me guess, you're going to make $1 million, Leena? And I said, I don't know that, but I can tell you real estate's going to shift, and that's one way you can acquire money. And then a week later, Netflix offered a position at $900,000 for AI. So I was like, there's your answer. The answer is yes, right? So with inflation, then also comes with salary increase. But also, is it your neighbor who doesn't have anybody to give their house away? Right. You've been wanting a house, and maybe there's a way for you to acquire it, right? And so it depends, right? And so maybe you're part of an estate plan. It just depends on what it is, right? And also, what are you doing to upskill to prepare for that knowledge acquisition yourself? Right. And what are you doing to get ahead of everything? And so I don't believe we're a victim of circumstances. I think there's way too much opportunity.
All right. Too much opportunity. Man, you're just full of a lot of like too much money, too much opportunity. But I love that, because we got to be very optimistic about things. We have to look at things and say, yes, there is a lot of opportunity out there. Yes, there is people that are making a lot of money. And yes, there's a lot of money that's out there that's still not being utilized. I mean, I get calls literally every day. Somebody's trying to lend me money. It's just the terms. At the end of the day, it comes down to terms. Yeah, what are your terms? Is it cheap money? If what's the repay on it? If it's expensive money, what's the repay? I mean, everything has its terms.
Right.
It's just what fits best, and then where are you at in your business or in your timeline of where you need that cash flow.
Right.
So
that's right.
Sometimes you're in a pickle and you're like, oh man, how much is that money? And you'll take it.
Right.
The consequences is coming down the road because you've already taken it. And I've been in those situations too, where you're just pressed and you're like, your back's against the wall.
Right.
And at that point, you got to make a decision. And once you decide, you got to commit to that thing, and then you got to execute on it. And then next thing you know, you're flowing temporarily, but then eventually that problem is going to catch up to you.
Right.
Just like anything. And we have to be prepared for that. Right. So that's when it comes to making decisions like that for me, I'm like, all right, I try to forecast as far as I can.
Right.
Mentally, even if I write it out, I'm like, okay. And you start to get a skill or a intuition or like you can call out trends.
Right.
Because we've done it enough. We've practiced it enough times that we understand it.
Right.
So, it's just the business world is just an interesting world. I love it. Again, entrepreneur since I was a kid.
Right.
Multiple businesses. I've hit some very big pinnacles. Clients. How big of a client have you worked with, or what's the biggest number that you've hit in your portfolio?
So we have $1 million clients right now. So you're talking about our revenue and disclosed.
Yeah. Okay. No, as far as as in your strategic advice and the way that you've been able to help others, what is that peak performance that they probably hit?
So what I see is they can't hit the next level, and the peak performance is for them to hit the next 10.
Got it.
Right? So, and the reason why is because they're master at what they do, but not at the growth.
Got you.
So that's everybody.
Got it.
Right? And so, the way you were 10 years ago are not the way you are today.
Amen to that.
And the way you were last week, and maybe even the way you were yesterday.
Yeah.
So I really want to point to like blocks, barriers, and breakthroughs. Right. Right. And so
blocks, barriers,
and breakthroughs.
Okay.
And I can't overemphasize the importance of those strategic partnerships because I heard of a term called productive partnership. I don't like the word collaboration because collaboration could mean I bring 1 cup of water, you bring steak. That's not fair. Right.
Okay.
Productive partnership, which is the both missions.
I can already think of a partnership like that in my mind. I'm like, whoa, like you have to bring something of value to the table.
Correct.
Just productivity or assumed productivity is not
right.
It is some value.
Right.
There is some equity in that, but you got to bring a lot more to the table, especially when someone else is funding these projects or stuff like that. I mean, I come across that all the time. I'm in. Here's my chips.
Right.
I'm in.
Right.
And then they're like, I'm kind of like,
no, that's the same. That's collaboration.
I'm all, what's happening here? So but then again, some people get offended, right? Because they don't feel that. well, in their mind, they think one thing, but in reality, it's another thing, perception versus reality, I tell people.
But I think also it's aligning with the same people with the DNA so that there's a fair investment, right? And the same sweat equity, but also the same financial equity that you're bringing forward. So
I like that. Actually, you're right. It's in our DNA.
Correct.
And not everyone's DNA matches.
No.
Yeah, that's a great statement right there. Yeah, no,
so
you got to really
alignment, right?
Yeah.
It's alignment. And it says, and so what is it that? So here we're very fortunate to be in Silicon Valley. We go from idea to full implementation to the world. Mm-hmm. So I studied it before. So I'm not from Silicon Valley. I've been here about 5 years, studied it, and before I came here, and it's really, people can. Really have ideas where they're not only graduated from Stanford, they have a school they built in Africa.
Yeah.
They also are creating, passing through 4 patents. They're also 4-time New York Best Time Seller. And they're like, they have 4 podcasts and they also sleep well and they have regenerative health, of course.
Yeah. Jeez.
Right. And
sounds like me a little bit there.
Right. There you go. And so why is that important to know is that anything you really want, it's about, again, what are you willing to do to get it? Who's your productive partner? And then what are you willing to do to execute that? And so here in Silicon Valley, it's possible. We turn every idea into something big, but it's how much do you want it?
How much do you want it, and how bad do you want it?
And how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Right.
That one's I've recently used that on a few people in my life. I'm like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it?
Right.
You want to continue to be where you're at, or do you want to start thinking big and be a part of the bigger play?
Correct.
How bad do you want it?
And I think it's also that level of execution. And so keeping that in mind, because not everybody, I think COVID and social media has provided some mentality that I don't think is very true. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to know that you're still working with people with a sense of urgency, high level execution, and they are the same DNA. And so I don't believe that there is an 8 to 5.
Yeah.
I answer the call when you call me, and that's it, right? And so I think you said money don't sleep, and I'm like, neither does opportunity.
Yeah.
And so when people don't realize that, hey, I want to have work-life balance, and I'm like, well, then drink a cocktail while you're working. I don't know what you want to say.
Work-life balance? I'm like, what? What's that?
Right.
Yeah.
And I get it. And so it is that. But I think it's important to formulate your own thoughts, not just follow what is being said.
No, I was going to say that they follow the buzzwords, right?
Correct.
The buzzwords are not, that's not reality.
No,
so,
not even close.
Even if you think about it, like raising a family too, there's no balance in there. There's no book that says, hey, you know how to raise children and how to run a household. It's kind of, you got to run it like a business. You gotta have its controls. You gotta have its processes and all that good stuff. So, yeah, there is no work-life balance. I hear people when they say, hey, I want to get to a certain point so that I can go travel around the world. Trust me, it's not gonna happen. I've been there. I reached the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go travel the world now. No, you may be able to get away for a week or two and go enjoy it, unless you definitely hit it out of the ballpark and then you hit all your investments, you do all your everything is moving, and then you put the right people, but. It takes some time. Right. It takes some time. It's not guys like us, like in our 40s, that are going to be doing that. And there's a few guys that are, few, but very small few out of 8 billion people. It's a very small percentage. It's not even the 1%ers. It's the 1%ers of the 1%ers.
Agreed.
That have mastered that and maybe have gotten lucky even at a young age. I tell people I'm 48 years old, and I know that I've reached some pretty big goals of mine, but I'm not done. I'm not done there, and I have to be patient because I know that the next big level for me, it's not like a big distance. It's just a very small distance away. But just to get there, you gotta put that extra work in it.
Yeah,
so.
And I think that's important for people to know, whether you have a side hustle or you're full-time entrepreneur, is that you call the shots and you have to run your business with the level of execution that you expect. And so there is a big difference when I work with business leaders here, because they answer quickly and they execute just as quickly.
Wow.
And so
yeah,
and they don't mess around. And they all say it costs me the boss. And so there's no work-life balance. It
costs to be the boss.
It costs to be the boss.
Yeah.
And so when you run your own business, you sometimes you're going to have interrupted sleep, interrupted meals, interrupted family time. So there's no perfect world. You have to create it though.
That's right. Yeah. If you want that, or at least think you want that, then go get a job.
Right.
My stomach hurts when I say that word. Yeah. I mean, you can get a job and now you're being told what to do.
Right.
And your time is now being controlled.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that works.
Entrepreneurship, I mean, it's definitely, you're having to constantly figure out, the solution. We talk about that, right? And your back is against the wall. What do? You have to have the right people. I think you have to have an intimate circle, because when you do have those problems, someone that you can trust and also talk to about that. So yeah.
No, and those are facts. You got to have an intimate circle of people that you can fall back on, so that when your back is against the wall, you can lean somewhere or on someone to help just kind of get you through it.
Absolutely. Agreed. So I think also a strong sense of faith, because it's take a lot of prayer and like meditation to get you through. So it's not a joke to be an entrepreneur. It's something very challenging, especially if you don't have a lot of skill sets. And then if you stress out very easily, you have to learn how to manage your emotional intelligence and your spiritual intelligence. So, and
those are two big important pieces too.
Yes, they are.
Emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, definitely having those two and having them at both high levels is important. Specifically, your spiritual one too. I think that's definitely one of the most important ones in this, because you have to have faith.
Right. You
have to have faith in yourself and in what you're doing, and hope that everything goes as you planned in your head.
Agreed.
And then from there, you'll figure out the rest. And then the emotional, which is, I think for some people, I think even including myself, it could become overwhelming, because life is happening, right?
Right.
Can be a business decision that goes bad, or a business decision that goes super. It can go very at a high level too. Okay. So even the highs and the lows, it can be a person on the outside. Relationship.
That's right.
Relationship can have a big impact depending on where it's at. The stability part. Where does it stand, and the support at home too. If there's any. For some entrepreneurs, they don't have that support at home because they're not there. But they can lean on other people as well.
I think your circle at home and in business matters, right? And I think we've kind of had the side conversation, but I think you hear it a lot, but I think people need to understand what that really means for themselves. I have a lot of girlfriends who talk about, they're CEOs and they're like, I can't find the right man. And I'm like, well, are you Lamborghini? Because you need a jet.
I love that conversation. I know we had that conversation a while back talking about Ferrari, Lamborghini.
Right.
If you think of yourself as that, and you want to get to the next level, you can't be hanging around with Toyotas.
No. No.
Can't hang out. So I use the other analogy, the eagles and the chickens, right? You can't fly high if you're down low, eating or playing with the chickens.
Right.
And that's part of life right there, though, too.
It is.
You got to know who you surround yourself with. The team that you surround yourself, you got to know are they all on the same vision? Are they all feeling, do they all want to fly high? And are they willing to do what it takes to fly that high?
That's right.
Because it's not fun being on the bottom.
No.
It's not fun at all. There's nothing sexy about that. There's just nothing. Yeah, just. Yeah. And then, of course, the mindset, right? You can't pull somebody that's not ready to go there.
That's right.
Because then you're dragging them, and then you're dragging yourself as well. You want to hope that people can meet, or that if there is that drive, that they're willing to put in the work to get to the top,
right.
And then having the patience to do it. But that takes a lot of work.
Right.
Takes a lot of work. Man, I just got out of breath just thinking about that. I'm like, man.
I always just say it's alignment, and then I think you just need to do an audit. You need to do an audit every year, just assess and see where you're at, so you're on the same page. And so, but I think it's about building that relationship together and having that vision together. So
yeah, and that's that. Yeah, I can see that definitely in the personal side, right? Having that family support, or that special somebody in the back that supports and gives you that push, because we all need it.
Right.
I think that it's important, and that there's. in that part, there's a balance.
Right.
There's got to be some kind of balance. There won't be no live work balance, but there's definitely some balance on the personal level.
Agreed.
You mentioned CEOs, ladies. What is your experience out there seeing? What's the percentage or the ratios looking like as far as the women that are coming up and taking that role? Because I'm impressed. I see a lot of, I hear a lot about it. I haven't seen them yet, but I hear about it. And damn, I'd love to be in those circles, where those boss ladies are at, because that's impressive to me. You want to be around those strong minds you can have a good intellectual conversation, because we're talking apples for apples.
Right. So several of them, I can tell you, they've been able to build a high net worth. They've been able to build an AI product. They didn't even know what AI was 9 months ago, and yet they've launched. I'm like, girl, I'm the one that told you about AI. And she's like, I know, right? And I'm like, and here we are. And so you can't talk about what you didn't know. You can create it. Right. And so she's an intellectual property attorney is another one. And, she provides services and products and making sure that your trademarks are covered, your licensing, making sure you're not vulnerable. Right. And so, she's built her empire. She works with celebrities. And so a person who dates her has to have a strong level of fortitude and confidence, because that's high net worth, high visibility.
Right.
And so are you confident to be able to handle her crew?
Right.
Because that's her crew. And so, but yes, I've seen women, and I think women are tired of waiting. So I think they're just creating, and they're just going to turn up, and they're not going to turn down. So
right. Yeah. Right. And then whoever steps up in their universe has to step up.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's no different than in the man's universe. That person needs to step up or be that person that supports and pushes.
Agreed.
Where do you see the Silicon Valley right now as that? I mean, is that mindset really there? Is there a lot of women that are really stepping up? Because, Silicon Valley has been man-driven for a very, very long time. All the big tech companies, I mean, every once in a while you'll get a female CEO or some kind of top leader that's female in some company. What's your thoughts on that,
So I think the landscape is changing so that more women, we're not growing at the rate that we want to, right? And so that we're positioning ourselves and we're being positioned for high levels of leadership, ownership, and drive. And where there's one woman, there's 100 backing her. And so I'd be very careful, very careful, because it's not that one person. She's got her own tribe. And so it comes with a lot of strategy, also comes with a lot of strength. But I think women are just tired of not having what they want and waiting and being polite. They're positioning, posturing, and they're pivoting to what's ahead. And they're relentless about what they want. So
yeah, they're on fire. They're that independence. Let me ask you. You mentioned AI, the AI business. What is that? Because that is a buzzword. I've heard a few people. I actually know a few people that work on that. But when I think of AI, I'm thinking. It's algorithms, it's intelligence, it's it's coming. That whole world is a whole different universe. It's like the Web 3.0 kind of idea.
Correct.
What is the business that you mentioned? I mean, what can take you to that? Because I'm still trying to think. How do you monetize the AI world?
Artificial intelligence. You can partner with our AI in almost any product that's taken away, not necessarily the person, but the task. So it's being automated. Also feeding it to the data that it needs. So the person I was mentioning earlier is an HR AI product. She has that. And she fed in all the states' policies and rules and regulations so that you can have an affordable or accessible HR product without having a CHRO, because you purchased it in the software, and you can ask it anything you want on demand, 11 o'clock at night, and the answer before an 8 a.m. lawsuit happens.
Wow. And this is for HR?
Correct.
Wow.
So you can, with the right software engineer, and I think with the right ideas, implementing that, right? So even there's coaching. So, people will say, well, you can't really take over people. I'm like, have you used an AI coaching platform? So I'm not saying that we're not, completely gone from the opportunities, but I think we have to be aware of how we can be obsolete. It's coming. Again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah. And how are you partnering and embracing that to leverage that tool for your benefit?
kind of crazy when you start thinking about that, right? Where at what point does a human being become obsolete, and where? I mean, yesterday I was in San Francisco, and Waymo out there, the Waymo, the car, driverless cars.
Right.
I mean, they're everywhere.
Right.
I actually tried to mess with one and see if I can mess with it, and it recognized and it stopped. I wasn't trying to, I was just teasing it a little, but I mean, to think about the comment that I made is like, would you imagine if Lyft or Uber bought this company and they're like, they don't need it. They don't need to get bought out. They're ahead of their time. And that's all AI technology there. That's all AI technology. I mean, those cars are learning every second. They're learning all the different things that can possibly happen to it.
Right.
Just from all the data gathering that they're doing. I mean, that in itself right there. I mean, so now my point would be is, so they eliminated the driver now. Now you have driverless cars.
Right.
For me, I see that as if I'm that busy guy and I don't, instead of paying a driver, I have now this car and I can still do all my work that I need to do while I'm in transit from one place to another.
That's correct.
Where else do you see AI taking things? I've even heard about planes, people thinking about planes, and I'm like, I don't know if somebody wants to not know.
We have that here in Silicon Valley. There's
not commercial flights, not commercial flights.
Not commercial yet. No. 45-minute flight, but it's out of here in Silicon Valley. And
really?
So, yes. And they have EVs, and so they're already created here.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Very small, like kind of mini helicopter looking. And so, but their route time is about 45 minutes. So.
Wow. Yeah. That'd be interesting. I can't wait to see one of those. I know that in what city were they? In Los Angeles, I know that they were, all the new high risers that are coming up, they're all required to have helicopter landing pads now. Not just for the fire and safety, but for the future of helicopters landing on these rooftops or on these top of the buildings, transporting people. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Right. So AI plays, it's AI and then it's machine learning, but I don't know how to answer that in that sense of like, what will it all do? But I think what I can tell you is that we should embrace it and use it. And, I think it's also about like, how do we, it's just like the internet. We were like, no, it's the devil. And it's like, well, AI everybody told me that AI is the devil. Yeah. And so I mentioned it to a Bible study teacher and she told me, she goes, I'm an author. And I said, okay. So she had it take her notes in a meeting, and it actually took her notes. It gave all the task items for her next book, and she was like, hey, I used it, and it did everything for me. And I said, oh, it's wonderful. So wow. It's how you see it, right? And I've also seen crazy stuff that it creates. We've used it to create videos for marketing, and it's my voice, but it's not me, and they're doing the hand and facial gestures just like I would.
That's crazy. So I've heard, I can tell some of the videos that are on YouTube that they're like AI generated voice, right? Because it doesn't have the tone, or it's sometimes they run on sentences, right, or some, the way they pronounce. It's just interesting to see where this is all going and what's happening. I mean, the video editing of videos now, and just all the stuff that's just coming out. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's going to make us more efficient or give us some efficiencies if we know how to use it. Right. But just like everything, it takes time to learn things. Right. And you still need people to run it. So you'll need that. And so I just don't say like, will it take away people's jobs? And so that's not my call. Because we're in all different phases of growth in our business, and how we run our different verticals. So, yeah. Interesting what's going down. What else? What else is? I mean, we got a whole list of things here. You got a whole accolades of things. I'm impressed. What's the future looking for you? What's your goal? So my goal with Cobble Tree, I'll tell you, is building a strong ecosystem for businesses. And so it's really about what business partnerships do you need, right? And so a business only knows what they know, right? And they don't know what's a missing piece. So we may have a CRO. We may have the software you're looking for. We also have the business. We may even bring just the entire business development for you. Do you need a website? I mean, there's a multitude of things. There's things you put off as a business owner, or you just have a blind spot towards it, right? Like, well, I didn't know I could do that.
or I've always wanted to like have a virtual assistant, but they haven't.
Right.
Our software has a VA that's AI driven. So you don't have to hire someone. It's already in the software.
Wow.
Also that, when you have to call back a bunch of people, I was there with the marble company. They must have had 50 calls they missed in 1 hour. A person should have been answering for them, right? And so you can, instead of calling back 50 people, you can use an MP3 file and it drops automatically for you. So you don't have to do that. So it'll be done within a few minutes.
Damn.
So it's really about working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And then also using your time for what is best, right? If you're more customer facing and that's what draws in your contracts and revenue, then you should be doing that.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
I all of this stuff, when we start talking about technology, can become overwhelming.
Correct.
Because it's just like, whoa, we're so used to or accustomed to doing it one way and that way and thinking that it's going to always work. And I tell people, I said, it's like your iPhone, right? You're not using the iPhone 4. Do you even remember what that is like? You know, or like and every year we're upgrading, right?
Right.
We're upgrading. And I think that we need to continue to upgrade ourselves.
Right.
And I also think that continuing to just elevate our just start thinking our we got to continue to just educate ourselves.
Right. Agreed.
Just absorb, read, get engaged. I mean, if you really want to live that lifestyle, I get amused by everyone that says, "Oh, I want to be an entrepreneur," and I'm like, "Okay, you want to be a entrepreneur then?" Because you got to put in the work. Just because you put CEO or president next to your name, that doesn't mean that you're an official CEO. I mean, an official entrepreneur.
Agreed.
I always tell people, I said, you're not official until you get your first lawsuit, and then you're like, oof, all right, now I know what that feels like.
Or you lose your first chunk of money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I've been there. I've been there. Those are definitely some lessons to be learned.
Right.
Especially when you take other people's money too. And if you're not responsible and you lose that,
so here's what I want.
The next set of problems are coming.
Agree. So I want to say, one of the things that I call it a soul check. So what's been happening to me the last few months, Mauricio, which I'm sure happens to you too, right? I'm a woman, so gender wise, it's different in the marketplace, right? And so, but I call it a soul check because it's like, who are you? Are you legit? Or are you a performer? Because there's a lot of bad business out there. And I call it a soul check because, so the gentleman asked me, can we have lunch? And I said, oh, this isn't lunch. I said, this is a soul check. And what's a soul check? I go, you want to see if I'm legit? I said, that's fair. And they said, you're not upset? I said, not at all. I said, I expect you to do your due diligence, to check, to verify. Even if someone is recommended, you should still do your due diligence.
Yeah.
I know women have mentioned, I've seen some calls, some summits, and they say, I didn't know, I was taken advantage of. And so I think it's about not being aware and then putting their framework to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
So, and vet your people. Vet your people.
Yeah, that's I'm guilty of that too, right? I mean, we go I all the things that we thought were the right way, there's always going to be a plus or minus to it.
Agreed.
And for me, again, I just sometimes I run that red light. I didn't vet out who I was involved with or who I was doing business with, and those could be detrimental.
Correct.
If they're not managed properly. So, and we can't assume things. We can't assume things just shit happens.
Right. And just move on, right? And so not like, how did I not know? Should I, I should have known better. And I just remind business owners, like, that's not your job to know everything, but it is your job to have the framework for success, and you have to put those filters in for that. Right. And you just learn from it and you move to the next thing. So, but beating yourself up is not what's going to help you get to the next level, but learning from it will.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Lessons learned.
That's right. That's Lessons it. Thank you, next, like Ariana Grande.
Yeah. People want to get a hold of you. Where can they reach you at?
Yep. Okay.
You have a website where people can come to you?
Cobbletree.com. I'm also at LeenaMendoza.com, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and easy to reach me.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're accessible.
I'm accessible.
You've made yourself accessible.
Yes.
It's interesting. I made myself accessible. You can Google my name and my phone number pops up in there. Like it's just, and I'm okay with that because it takes a lot of courage for people to first do that stuff. So 99% of the people that are out there that say they want to do something, they don't do it.
Right.
And then there's that 1% that says, I'm going to take the risk and do it. And boom. Right. Next thing you know, we're having some good conversation.
But you're the only person I know in the Bay Area that answers their call during a 49ers game. Which that was rule number 1 when I got here. They said, do not call during a Niners game at all. And you're the only one. I said, are you watching the game? And then you go, yes. I go, and you, what do you need? I said, I'll call you after. You go, okay.
Hey, I'm a fan, but I'm not a fanatic. So, I'm good with it. Business, a call is a call. So, words of wisdom or inspiration to other women that are out there, business women, people that want to be a boss lady or people that want to elevate their game. I mean, everyone has a different version. What is your best piece of advice for people out there?
So the best thing I would tell you is you're always building. I think the most important thing, you should be building yourself at all times. It doesn't matter what someone else says about you. It matters what you say about yourself. Stack your coins, stack them high, and making sure your circle's tight and right. And you'll do a very good job.
It could make a hip hop song out of that one right there, man. Woo! Brought in the heat.
Right.
It's true.
That's right.
It's true.
That's right.
You got to look at your surroundings. You got to look at who's involved. You got to see where the points of penetration can happen.
Correct.
Because once you let the serpent into the Garden of Eden,
right. Yeah.
Game over.
That's right. And so, and they're just life lessons. That's it. Thank you. Next. That's it.
Yeah.
So, will I bring you a tissue? Yes, but I'll also bring you a cake to celebrate the upgrade.
Yeah. Well, amen to that. Well, I just want to say again, thank you for making the time. I was excited about this. I know it was kind of a last minute thing, but it wasn't because it was last minute. It was just, hey, let's make something. Let's create. Let's create. And we're creating. And again, I want to thank you. And I know that people that are going to be watching this are going to get inspired, motivated, especially this next generation of young women that are coming out that are they're hungry.
That's right.
They're hungry. They want it. And I'm like, and you're right. Actually, I would definitely want to have a tribe full of women on my team, because if we got to go to war, we're going to war.
Yes.
The guys are like, later. No. We're going to war now, suckers. Let's go. Con ganas, cabrón.
Right. Agreed. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mauricio, for having me here.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2025 and see all the lives you inspire.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then also to all the women and the entrepreneurs that are out there is go after what you want with a relentless spirit, and don't stop until you get it.
That's right. It. Don't stop. Get it. All right, guys. All right. I want to thank everyone again. Mauricio Mejia Live. It's another episode in the wraps.
Like, comment, subscribe. Mauricio Mejia Live on YouTube.